Pomodoro sauce is a wonderful, great, and fresh and super delicious sauce. And honestly, if you grow tomatoes, you really need to know how to make Pomodoro sauce, and you're going to be happy that you know how to make it. In this video, I'm going to combine some secrets that I've learned from my Italian grandma, as well as from watching some videos from Marco Pierre White, the famous rock star chef. Yes, if you haven't heard of him, you need to Google him. He's amazing. His recipes are out of this world. And honestly, I could watch that guy butter toast, to be honest with you. He's just incredible. As well as some of the tricks that I've learned and have been using for a while. And this is probably my favorite part about cooking, is we learn from different people and we combine the things that we love the most that we've learned into making dishes our own way from people who really know how to make those dishes. So that's probably one of my favorite parts about cooking and learning to cook. All right, now Pomodoro sauce is fantastic because of its absolutely fresh taste. And right now, our gardens should be exploding with tomatoes, especially those little sugar bombs cherry tomatoes. Now, we are growing Sun Golds, which is a varietal of a cherry tomato. Our little ones absolutely love them. They kind of have like a yellowish orange, bright skin and a sweet and sugary, flavorful taste. Now, some people only love to use those cherry tomatoes in their Pomodoro sauce, and that's great. I like to combine a bunch of different ones. I like to combine our Sun Golds with some cocktail tomatoes and some vine tomatoes, and then I might even throw a slicer tomato in there just to add a little bit of acidity to all that sweetness. That's just me though. Pomodoro sauce is just an incredible dish that you can kind of make your own, and it's done in so many different ways. One of those first tricks is that Marco Pierre White likes to combine the flavor of the fresh tomatoes with some canned tomatoes. And the reason he does is because we really want to be able to make this sauce all year long, but tomatoes are really only really fresh in our gardens 2 months out of the whole year. So how do we get that really fresh flavor kind of all year long? And then one of those ways is to, still buy cherry tomatoes and those sweeter tomatoes out of season, because we can pretty much get tomatoes all year long, but let's be honest, they're nowhere near as good as the ones growing right now. So we can get that fresh flavor all throughout the year by buying them from the grocery store throughout the year, but getting them more rich and intense flavor by using those canned tomatoes like San Marzano, which is what I'm going to use today. Now, I really like to use a 75-25% ratio, so I'll go 75% fresh and 25% canned in season, and then when they're out of season, I'll do 50% fresh tomatoes that I buy from the grocery store and 50% canned. So let's go jump in the kitchen and get cooking, because I want to show you the rest of these tricks, but I also want to show you this first dish we're going to be making with Pomodoro sauce, which is a paella style pan-seared halibut and fresh veggies from around the garden. Let's go. Before we get going, let's go ahead and preheat our oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 Celsius. Now wash and dry all of our tomatoes and then just slice them in half. The larger ones, let's go ahead and just quarter or just slice up into smaller little chunks. Now here comes trick number 2, which also comes from Chef Marco Pierre White. We're going to grate our onion to remove the excess water from it. Now why is that important? When we remove that excess water, we're removing the acidity before it even goes into our pot. Now I've tried this recipe with a whole onion, but I actually prefer it with just half an onion. The same goes for our garlic. We're going to grate the garlic on the small side of our box grater, and we're gonna go with 4 garlic cloves. Now let's jump over to the stove with our Dutch oven. Add in some extra virgin olive oil, a really good amount. Add in our onion and garlic. We really want to hear it sizzle, no popping. If it's popping, remove your pot from the heat. It's too hot. Add a big pinch of salt and work it through. We're not really trying to get a lot of color on our onions here, so just keep it moving and watch for all the rest of the water in our onion to come out. We want to get rid of all of that. Keep it cooking and moving until that is all gone. Add a couple sprigs of thyme and a bay leaf and keep it moving. Once all of the water is gone, now it's time to add in our tomatoes. Now it's gonna get real. I add in another pinch of salt here, but that's up to you. Work them all through the onion and garlic. It's gonna take about 4 to 7 minutes to see those tomatoes begin to break down, and you'll see all of their excess water spilling into the pot. And we want to keep that working from the outside in. You want to pull that flavor that's coming out to the outside and move it back to the middle. You can turn the heat down here a bit and just let the stove and the pot do the work now. Every now and then, working the sauce from the outside to the middle. After about 10 minutes, you should start to see bubble clusters like this one, which brings me to my third tip, which is from Grandma. Now we want to take our time and remove foamy bubbles like this. If you taste it, go ahead and try it. It will be super bitter. So let's take our time and spoon out those foamy bubbles as best as you can. You don't have to get them all, you don't have to be perfect, but just do your best to take out as much as you can. Like Chef Marco Pierre White says, it's the methods that make our dishes great. And this method is proven over a lot of years of tomato sauce making. And now it's time to add our canned tomatoes. And who wants another tip? We want to keep everything in the pot, all of the flavor, all of that sweetness. And to do that, we're going to make a cartouche. A cartouche. Now this is really just parchment paper that we cut into a round shape that fits into our pot to keep the moisture in the pot and protect our ingredients from the heat. And this is also a Chef Marco Pierre White technique. Take a big square of parchment paper, fold it up like a little paper airplane over and over again. Now hold it over your pot so the point is at the middle of the pot. Make a little tear at that point on the edge where it meets the edge of your pot, then cut it straight off with your knife or scissors. Then cut the point like so, just to create a little hole. Cartouche, that's just so fun to say. Now place that cartouche in your pot so that it completely covers your sauce. Now for another layer of insulation, if you will, we wrap our lid with tin foil. Now firmly place your lid on the pot and place the whole thing in your oven for about 60 to 90 minutes. Longer for a slightly thicker consistency. I prefer it a little runnier just because I like to use this as my base sauce for other things. You do you though. I'd hope you try a couple different ways to see which you like better. And now we're just going to carefully run it through a strainer and really mash that pulp through the strainer until it's dry. And that's it. This is our base sauce. Now let's have some fun. Now the reason I love this sauce as a base so much is because I can do so many things with it. In this case, I'm going to make a paella style halibut with fresh veggies from the garden. And my wife says that this is the best dish I've ever made so far. So let's add in our fresh beans and peas to my paella pan with some extra virgin olive oil and season. After about 2 minutes, we're gonna add some zucchini rounds from the garden and a red bell pepper that I sliced up real thin. Season again. We're building flavor here. While those are cooking, let's season our halibut with a little bit of olive oil, then salt and pepper. Remove our cooked veggies from the pan, and now let's add our halibut to create a nice sear and some color. Just a couple minutes on each side will do. These halibut fillets are super thick, so it's not going to really even put a cook on them at all, just a nice sear. Once we have a nice sear on our fish, remove them from the pan, add a little bit of bone broth or chicken stock to deglaze our pan and lift all of that fond up. That's flavor. After about 30 to 45 seconds of scraping, let's add our base Pomodoro sauce. Now some Pecorino Romano cheese and some fresh basil from the garden that we chiffonade, which really just means you roll it up like Snoop Dogg, put your knife at a slight angle, and slice thinly. You can see that this base sauce is starting to become so much more now. Stir it up for a minute, add your fish, add your veggies, and just cover it loosely with tin foil, and we're just gonna let this simmer until the fish is cooked to your liking. I like my halibut about medium, perfectly white on the inside, but it should fall apart as soon as you touch it with a fork. And now it's just time to plate it up. Feel free to top it with a little extra Pecorino Romano, if you know what I'm saying. And that is the dinner that my wife said is the best thing I have ever made yet. I hope you love this recipe. Tell me in the comments your favorite tomato sauce recipes. If you enjoyed it, you have to hit that subscribe button because I have some incredible Pomodoro sauce uses coming very soon. I appreciate you.